What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with PackersNews.com. I'm talking to Justis Mosqueda, who has done some fantastic work over at Cheesehead TV about Ted Thompson and his draft tendencies. Justis, I wanted to dive into the guard position. I don't think there's any question that's the number one hole in the Packers roster heading into the draft. We both know that Ted Thompson has been loath to use early draft picks, especially at guard when it comes to his offensive line. Who later on in the draft, maybe on the third day, might Packers fans expect the Packers to take a look at?
Right, because I mean, like you said, I mean, he doesn't really use first round picks on guards. He's used those guys on like future left tackles and things like that.
Right.
It's the fourth round where you see those interior guys like Lang and Sitton and even like J.C. Treader go off the board. When I'm looking at the board, just kind of like how it stacks as far as like guys who are projected on probably like NFL Draft Scout and things like that. It seems like the guys in the mid rounds that you probably want to look at are like Will Holden from Vanderbilt, who I mean he played guard a little bit at the Senior Bowl. He played tackle at the Shrine Game. But he's like a 6'7" guy. I mean, he's one of my favorite probably just offensive line prospects in general in this class. I think he's probably like the fifth best tackle in this class. But I think he's a plug and play guy inside, especially in a zone heavy scheme like Green Bay where you isolate the guards a lot. Another guy would be Nico Saragusa from San Diego State. He kind of has. He's an awkward mover, but he's a good mover. Like he does, like you
Right.
watch him and it just doesn't seem right.
You
But
don't know
he
how
gets
he
there
does it,
every
but he
single
does
time.
it.
Yeah, you don't know how, but he does. It's untraditional. Another guy that I would probably say would be like Corey Levin from
Right.
Tennessee Chattanooga. I mean, he was a guy who was he was I want to say he took over the starting job as a left tackle his freshman year. Then he kicked inside a guard his sophomore year and ended up being a three-time All-American at the FCS level. Which I mean, it's FCS ball, but I mean, if you're producing if you test out athletically like he did, and you have a tackle background, and you're just like what I think it was a quarter inch shy of 6'4",
Hmm.
some teams might even look at you as a tackle moving forward. So I think he could play tackle in a pinch, but he could be a starting guard, just kind of plug and play.
What are those guys that you're both checking here and possibly just looking elsewhere? What do they usually have in common? When he's taking guys like J.C. Treader, you mentioned, or T.J. Lang, uh, trying to project forward to the draft in a couple weeks, what are some of the traits that Ted Thompson traditionally has valued when looking at these offensive linemen?
Yeah, so Green Bay seems to have a very high threshold for both of the agility drills. So I would say I think it was a 4.75 short shuttle and a 7.7 or a 7.71 three cone time, which are both like those are both above average marks, and every single offensive lineman that they've drafted, at least I mean in like the first 5 rounds under Ted Thompson, have been able to check off both of those boxes. And they generally look for blindside pass blockers at the college level who have a lot of starts. But I mean Corey Linsley would be obviously be the exception to that rule.
Right.
But if we're looking at those guys, I mean Levin played a little bit of tackle, right? I mentioned that he kind of had to move to guard in a pinch. Holden was a tackle basically his entire college career with Vanderbilt. Nico Saragusa played guard, but if you looked at him on paper, you would say he's a tackle because he's like 6'4". He's over 6'4". He's like 6'4" and change. So really, you're kind of looking for those like I guess you'd say ambiguous offensive linemen. Those guys who are like
Right.
they're taller than 6'3", but they're not quite 6'5", right? Like that kind of middle range, and then just athleticism in general that can hold up one on one. I mean, anyone who watches Green Bay can tell you that their offensive linemen are in more one-on-one matchups than just about anyone in the league to kind of try to help out Aaron Rodgers in his scrambling ability.
Well, there you go. Breaking it down for us. Justice, can't thank you enough. Look for his stuff at Cheesehead TV. I'm Aaron Nagler for PackersNews.com.